Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at the NPC, like always. I am Rajat Tandon. I will be moderating the next session, which is all about betting big on Indian deep tech. With me, I have on my panel very prominent investors. So we have Manoj from Softbank, we have Hemant from Lightspeed, and we have Rajiv from Antler. So welcome everyone on stage. I do want to thank NASSCOM for setting this up. They have a deep tech club, which is very prominent in this particular sphere. And I think as deep tech becomes very important, really, if you have to look at it, today deep tech is what we term as the new tech. It is the next big thing that will advance the technology frontier. That's what BCG report talked about. And my panelists, with my panelists, we're going to shoot some. I'm going to try and request them to answer certain questions on deep tech and their poison. When I say poison, it's not the real poison, but it's their poison on investing. So that's their thought about, their passion about investing, their opportunity, their insights, what are their top picks, as well as the operational expertise. So that's what they're going to be sitting and discussing. So what is all deep tech? Deep tech innovations are defined as disruptive solutions, which are built around unique, protected, or hard to reproduce technology or scientific advances. And it's very important to understand that moving forward, deep tech is the way to be going forward for investors and the corporates. Today, in the US, there are over 4,000 deep tech companies. In China, there are about 1,000. We have to still find this number in India, what this number is going to be. Investments have been around 35 billion in the US, about 15 billion in China. Again, India, we'll figure out some more interesting discussions. So without further delay, let me just start by requesting my panelists to quickly introduce themselves, maybe Manoj, followed by Rajiv and Hemant, and then I'll take on the questions. Manoj?
Thank you, Rajat. I'm Manoj Kohli from Softbank, India. I look after about 25 portfolio businesses, which are primarily focused on AI-based and digital transformation of Indian economy. And that's what I do. Thank you.
Thanks, Manoj.
Hey, this is Rajiv, and I'm partner at Antler. Antler is an early stage pre-seed fund that's a global platform. Before that, I was the founder of Urban Ladder and been in the tech industry in some form or the other over the last 20 years.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Hemant, one of the partners at Lightspeed India, a large global fund that is focused on tech-based investing across consumer and enterprise companies globally.
So thank you, guys. And I think since we're discussing, I just wanted to understand your passion. Manoj, we know you set up the entire Airtel network. So certainly technology is in your DNA. So can we hear something from you on your passion about deep tech?
No, my passion comes from our society's need. I think we need science and technology, and especially deep tech now, to uplift our society. As I remember, I expanded Airtel to 5.5 lakh villages. I think I could see in the villages that it's only mobile internet, 3G, 4G, which is present. Otherwise, the road may not be there, the airports may not be there, the railway station may be far away, water, power may not be there, but mobile internet is there. And I think we need to take technology down to the bottom so that our next generation can uplift itself, especially now when we are building towards 5 trillion and maybe 10 trillion later. This is the best opportunity for us to massify technology.
Awesome. Rajiv?
I think it goes back to, I have an engineering degree and an MBA, and the way I look at, and at Antler we don't talk sectors as much as themes. And if you look at deep tech, it's actually deep science, right? In terms of it's the four sciences as we call it, which is chemistry, biology, physics, and computer science. And computer science is what everything around hardcore security and crypto, and today as technologies graduate from deep tech to regular tech, that means that just more people are understanding it and using it. But it's for me, the passion is also about very similar to what Manoj said, which is I think the more core you go in any of these four sciences, the more stronger is your foundational impact to people, right? For example, if you take, let's say, chemistry, right, and you develop better components to replace something like milk or something like meat, you suddenly have the quality of food for billions of people, right? You don't have to get the same amount of meat to serve everyone equivalent protein of what non-vegetarians eat, right? It's the same in physics. You're able to send something to Mars or to something to space. You're sort of really challenging the laws of physics, right? And same with biology. You sort of go deeper into medtech, and you have devices that sort of sit on your head and are able to make you happier. For me, I'm just sort of fascinated by just what these core four sciences are able to do. And somewhere there, being from the science background helps. And today, I think the next decade in India, unfortunately, this is not, people, when they think software, they think IT services. But I think that whole engine at the core of India needs to change. And for that, a few companies need to become big companies and then sort of have a ripple effect on the talent to have a lot more people in all of these four core sciences really come be part of these companies and then build great companies, which is already happening in US and China and is probably some time away from India. But I think this decade we could change that.
Great. Hemant, I mean, I love that inputs coming. Thank you.
I do want that device that sits on my head and makes me happy, and I think that's worth all kinds of investing dollars possible. But look, I grew up in India, like most of the panelists here, and as an engineer, I've always been inspired by solving difficult problems. My first career out of college was in a, you could call, deep tech company called Advanced Micro Devices, designing microprocessors that are now running a bunch of the cloud infrastructure or used for gaming and mining, Bitcoin mining, which I did not predict back then. But those were the early days of microprocessor design and engineering. So I've sort of built up my career in and around very smart, long-term oriented engineers and builders, and I've always been inspired by that. So as a result of which, I think there are two reasons why I really like deep tech investing. One is the inspirational part of it, right? We talk about India being the next Silicon Valley, or so to speak, whatever that word is, right? Whatever version of Silicon Valley needs to be for India. But we forget that if you go back to the 60s and the 70s, almost all of Silicon Valley was these deep tech founders, folks that came out of Shockley Lab, founded AMD, Intel, things like Regeneron, Pfizer. They were all founded in that era, right? The internet was founded in that era. GPS devices were also founded in that era. And more recently, things like SpaceX and many more are all deep tech companies. There's an inspirational aspect of it that I think that we tend to forget sometimes, that just how deeply does a fundamental advance on technology brings people around the globe together to a mission, right? So we invested in a company called Pixel Space, which is sending satellites up in space, one of the first private companies in the country to do it. And I can see that there is, you can invest in all kinds of companies and categories, but when Pixel launches something in space, the entire country will come together. And there is no amount of dollar or marketing dollars will really buy that for you, right? That inspirational connection to the problem that is being solved live in front of you. That's one part of it. Second, as an investor, I feel like, just how much money can you spend in the same old, categories? It's just hard. After a point in time, the returns do tend to get depressed. And deep tech, if you are long-term oriented and have patient capital and the and the right kind of capabilities and back the right kind of long-term oriented founders, can really return, from an investor's perspective, can really return the funds, right? So that's the second reason. If you identify the right categories that are about to inflect and the right founders that have long-term orientation, this is actually a very, very profitable part of the venture ecosystem to invest behind.
Great, Hemant. So I'm glad that I'm also a engineer and an MBA and hardcore telecom guy for years, who was sitting on the panel with you. So I was with Nortel, and we were looking at technologies which could actually go to the deepest, like Manoj said. So again, Hemant, you put out another important factor, since I represent an association for investors, which is all about patient capital. But isn't deep tech about patient square capital? Because it takes a lot of time. What are your views on that, Hemant?
Yeah, so it does take time. You have to have patience. You can't be looking for revenue on the second day of investment, right? That's not what this would work as an investor, or that's not the kind of investor a founder would want as well. So yeah, the answer is yes. It's that's also why you don't see a lot of investors putting capital behind it, because there is so many other places that they would rather sort of get the upticks in valuations and so on and so forth. So you're going to have a passion for solving a particularly difficult problem and then invest behind the right kind of founders. these companies don't have linear or super linear growth. They have quantum leaps in growth. So for the first 2 years, they're going to be in build more. There is no customer conversations, no revenue, no branding exercises, no marketing exercises. They're just essentially living in a hole, in a cave, and building out, right? And once they really get it right, like Pixel is now about to launch their first satellite, Rephrase.ai is doing something in generative AI. They have taken 2 years to really perfect the technology. And recently, what you saw, the Shah Rukh Khan Cadbury ad, that was worth 2 years of hard work, right? And that's what you're going to have to be patient about, and then be optimistic. It's not for everybody, but yeah, if you get it right, you can be very, very big and meaningful businesses and very defensible in nature.
I'll come back to him, but Manoj, just wanted to get your view on this because you've deployed products which were in the R&D space and to the remotest areas, right? So you understand the difficulty in operation as well as R&D spend. What are your views around deep tech? On the same sphere.
Thank you, Rajat. India has had a good run in the last 5-7 years on digital transformation, which is actually a good foundation for the next phase of deep tech. But India has to do a lot on deep tech. A huge ecosystem has to be built, whether it's government, whether it's industry, whether it's academic institutions, because we need many more engineers, we need much more investment. The opportunity for investment is fantastic. There is no other market in the world, including the large markets, which offers such serious problems, and especially because of weak infrastructure of India, and also offers such huge marketplace. Because once you succeed in India, and I'll give you an example of Lenskart, one of our portfolio companies. It's an eye care company which makes contacts, eyeglasses, specs, and powered sunglasses. It's going deep into India. Every town which needs, and so many people, so many kids in India needs glasses, etc., etc. So it's going deep into the countryside with small shops, small showrooms, of course, online also. So I feel that India's big opportunity lies in digital graduating to deep tech for non-linear solutions to our serious problems. But luckily, viability is there. Viability of business is there because of the market size. I believe that on one hand, non-linear solutions, on the other hand, the big market has to be kind of integrated by bright entrepreneurs we have. The last thing I want to say is that luckily the talent coming out of small towns and villages is fantastic. I meet many of them, young engineers, software developers, coding people, programmers. They really love science. They understand mathematics very deeply. So I believe the talent is so hungry that in the next 10 years, you will see Indian talent will do very well across the world.
That's good to hear. Rajiv, I mean, you've put products from the manufacturer to the market. Now here, deep tech requires putting products from labs to the market. I mean, what are the expertise, what are the role which you play now in doing that as an investor?
I think what Hemant said is right? You have to have far more patience to be able to do it and go far deeper into understanding and something core science, right? We have done 13 investments in India till now. We haven't done one yet on deep tech. We'll probably hopefully opening our account on the new year if all things go well on the deep tech on the AI front, right? So now there are areas, right? For example, you take something like climate, right, which is sort of being talked about so extensively today. If you want to, there are obviously SaaS solutions on climate. For us, climate is a big theme, right? If you want to go deeper into electric vehicles as, let's say, an area, you are talking hardware, you are talking technology, and you are talking very smart. And Hemant gave a great example of Pixel. One of our team members, has helped the Pixel team, and he talks about how Pixel in their early days, 3 years back, when obviously space was not even being talked about, right? And today there are so many companies in IIT Madras, which are graduating from IIT Madras, all very young graduates who are sort of working on that. So I think it goes back to going deeper into colleges where some of that work is actually happening in conjunction with either academics in terms of very smart professors who are super deep in those, or having some kind. And one of the angles that Antler, we are pretty big on getting to India is the global academic network, right? And in terms of just being able to work with, we have offices in 15 countries today, and there's a lot of access to very extensive work that's happening on some of this. For example, let's say drone technology. There's a lot of work that happens in Europe, right? In terms of just going deeper into what needs to be done, what are the use cases. Same with climate, right? So we want to get to work with some of those institutions across continental Europe to be able to bring that to supplement what some of the Indian professors and Indian students are doing. So there is no, I wouldn't say there's any set pattern on it, unfortunately, because it's completely new. But more time, more work deeper with some of these different pools of talent which are specializing in it. And last but not the least, the right founder, right? Because at the end of the day, the founders who work in some of this are super entrenched into the space, and they are really doing this to solve a problem or have a very deep scientific or academic background in that space, right? Because otherwise, this is going to take years, if not a decade, to build a business in something that is as new as this. And you're not going to have a 3-year unicorn or a 4-year unicorn, which you might in some other space. You might take a lot more time just to get the first version of the product out, like 2 years, 3 years. So I think a massive founder market fit in terms of that's going to be something that we will look for.
Okay, and Hemant, if you want to add anything on that front, happy to hear from you.
No, I think, look, I mean, it's a very promising space, and we are very glad to see a lot many more folks coming out at all stages, right? So early stage as well as like mid to late stage. We recently saw a company that is building a brain computer interface, which is similar to what I think Elon Musk's company is also doing. So these are things that we were not expecting a couple of years back. So, but I do feel very, 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 very encouraged by the unlock in the ecosystem and a new category of investment possibilities that it brings out. And you see it in all old and new categories, including crypto, where a lot of deeply technical founders are coming out and building the infrastructure rails for the crypto economy to really take off. So I think it's very encouraging. The next 5 years will be very interesting for us as investors.
Excellent. In the paucity of time, I know you folks have to just run, but I probably have 2 questions, and very quickly. Today, as all of you are investors sitting over here, we've all said that there's some good products being built. What are the capabilities which are being built by the investors today in funds? Today, tech and deep tech investors or funds are very limited in the country. What are your views on that? Manoj, if you want to go with that.
So capabilities are being built very, very fast. And I feel that because the disruptions which are coming are going to be different from last 5-10 years. For example, advanced materials. For example, drones and robots. For example, photonics. For example, crypto. For example, additive manufacturing. Manufacturing being a huge make in India effort of government also. And there are 17 PLIs, production linked incentive schemes. So real manufacturing investments are happening, and where deep tech will help. So I feel that capabilities have started to be built up. We need more and more people in the next couple of years to be added, and I'm sure all investors are doing that. We are doing that across the world, not only in India but across the world.
For that, Hemant, I mean, in terms of your expertise,
just a couple of things. I mean, building deep tech company has a large overlap with building non-deep tech companies, but a couple of things that we are looking at is, deep tech policy framework is something that is usually, undefined, right, or loosely defined. So we are certainly building more capabilities to understand or even influence the decisions on the policy side and encourage the government to do the right thing for the company to just, foster the ecosystem a bit better. And we have been involved in the space and the crypto ecosystem more recently to help that along. And of course, selling into deep tech spaces is very different. So your go-to-market network may not be as relevant, for deep tech. So we are especially building certain advisory committees as well as go-to-market levers to sort of accelerate the go-to-market aspect of deep tech. And the third thing we are doing is obviously building relationships with deep tech investors like Manoj and other folks globally to sort of understand, help massage what what the vision for this company is, because these companies do struggle with the vision part of it, right? Often they are so deep into building, the vision part does get missed out. Not everybody is an Elon who can raise 170 million for with a single tweet, right? So we do help the companies a lot more there.
Right, good, great. Rajiv, we know you're building up your first investment. So last question, which says, where do you see India vis-a-vis rest of the globe on deep tech? One shot from you, Manoj, one shot from you, Rajiv, one shot from you, Hemant.
India is lagging behind, but I think we just need to integrate our effort of every stakeholder, which has happened in software development, which has happened in digital transformation, but in deep tech, I think we'll need another big effort of next year or two to integrate all the stakeholders to make that solid ecosystem of deep tech. Only then it'll take off in a big way.
Got it. Rajiv?
Same for me. Yeah.
Ditto. I think the talent, for me, the talent is the biggest angle, and if we can sort of get a few success stories in the next 3-4 years, I think the ripple effect will give us a lot more benefit over the next 10-20 years.
So great. I think it's been lovely with this panelists here, and for all the startups and everybody who's sitting in the audience and listening to this. It's all about innovate. Startups, you have to innovate, you have to scale up, you have the right kind of talent with you. So that's the mantra for, I would say, success for deep tech in India and for the startups. With that, I'd like to thank all my panelists here. Thank you for a lovely session.